Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we have reached the portion of the year where we're just doing 3 shows a day for question mark. We just did a Ohio State Purdue rewatch. Mm-hmm. We have an Indiana Penn State rewatch on deck at some point. We have a live show coming up tonight for the college football playoff rankings reveal. This does not include the morning shows, which I've got a Ross Fulton morning show coming up a little later on Tuesday. Yeah. And then now we have our Ryan Day presser recap. Tony, this is, they say they always remember November. I hope they remember all the podcasts.
What else is there to remember about November other than the podcasts, of course? Yes, we are here, Ryan Day. We did speak with him. No, nobody else. It's just Ryan Day Tuesday, as you guys know. Let's see. I guess let's start off with the health stuff. Mm-hmm. Basically, everybody should be back in terms of Tywone Malone, Josh Padilla, Phillip Daniels. Ryan Day at the end was, as he's walking off, hey, any updates on Carnell Tate? No update. Mm-hmm. So he could have played last week. Yeah. But now there's no update on Carnell Tate. So.
Well, I wonder if that's I think they've sort of talked around lower body kind of thing. So you wonder if this is you don't need him this weekend. So keep the main thing and play it a little safe. We'll see. Maybe there will be an update tomorrow. We'll see whether, tomorrow night when they're coming off the practice field, we'll see where he is and if he's looking like he has been running around with the rest of the kids out there out and having fun on the field or not. I would assume you're going to see, there is no indication right now that there's a serious issue there. I think it's just a matter of risk tolerance more than anything else.
Yeah, you'll see how the practice goes and all of those good things. Josh Padilla is expected to practice all week long, which means the right guard reps will be split up. Sounds like by more than just the 2 guys, just more than Josh Padilla and Tager Shabola. You'll see some Gabe Van Sickle and the rest of the rotating that they do in there with the 2s and the 3s as well. So that job is still officially it's a question mark. Mm-hmm. Brian Day didn't say it's open. He just said that they're continuing to evaluate it. They'll continue to push the envelope in terms of what they're going to do there. That envelope continuously has Tager Shabola's name on it.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that changes at all this week. At some point, they're going to continue to rotate. You just wonder if at some point Josh Padilla's body of work can push him past Tagra overall.
There was something that Ryan Day said, and this is going to be tremendous content because I don't remember exactly what the phrase was, but there was one sentence he said that I sort of thought, does that mean that Josh Padilla is going to be rotating in more than he was? Did you kind of get that vibe yes. At one point? And it wasn't like Ryan Day said, well, he's going to go from playing 25% of drives to 40% of drives. Right? It wasn't anything definitive. It was just kind of the way he phrased something. I thought I wonder if you're maybe going to see more of a, I'm putting numbers on this. Ryan Day did not put numbers on this, but is it going to be more of a 50-50 playing time split to just sort of see? Because I think they know at this point that the current status of the right guard position is not where they need it to be, and that's not the only issue that they have on the offensive line. And I don't want to, this is not. If only they could rid themselves of this bothersome Tagra, everything would be magical. I don't want to oversimplify it to that. But it's the current status of the right guard position is not good enough for where they want to get ultimately. So either they need to see more out of Tager Shabola, or they need to find someone else on the team who can give them more than they're getting right now out of Tager Shabola. The fact that it has continued to be Tager Shabola, even when Josh Padilla was healthy earlier, tells me that during practice, when we're not watching and fans at home are not watching, whatever they're seeing at practice is not indicating to them, yes, there is something better on this roster available right now to do it. He was asked about Ethan Onyanwa. Didn't sound like that he's right where they would need him to be right now. And I know the response from everyone is, well, it can't be worse. No, it could be worse. You could put Tony or me out there right now, and it would definitely be worse, no question. And I don't know that they feel like it's going to be better, but there probably does come a point where if you haven't seen improvement in the areas you want to see improvement, then you do make, as I said on a show earlier this week, maybe they're ready for just different problems.
Yeah, and maybe they'll find them. he did mention he's pleasantly surprised, or just pleased. Don't want to say surprised with Ian Moore's performance. Said I didn't really notice him. And as we all say, if you don't notice an offensive lineman, they're probably doing a pretty good job. And so that was encouraging for, I think, everybody to see that. Okay, you've got that third tackle that you can, that has at least played, and you have more trust in. He did mention how, because Ian Moore has really only ever practiced, like towards the end of the play, he just starts maybe letting up, because that's what you do in practice, and that's what you cannot do in a game. So getting that experience for him was certainly good. At some point, what happens if he becomes the 5th best offensive lineman in this whole thing?
Yeah.
And you want to maybe, does Philip Daniels move inside? That's wild speculation. That's even more wild speculation than yours, Tom.
Yeah.
I don't think they want to go anything that crazy. I think they just want to fix this one spot with players who play this spot.
Right. I think clearly the preferred solution would be, whether it's Tigger Shabola or Josh Padilla or Ethan Onyanwa, you fix the one spot by fixing the one spot, not by, and now the whole right side of the offensive line is in a different spot than they have been the whole season. That was something that was sort of offered as a potential solution on our board at one point on Sunday or Monday this week. And I think one potentially complicating factor is Philip Daniels has been banged up, so you could have potentially had that as you tried that last week, except Philip Daniels was banged up. So then, Philip Daniels is banged up, Josh Padilla is banged up. So you have a couple of these guys who are potential solutions, to one degree or another, who haven't been able to practice. So you haven't been able to try, haven't been able to see what this is looking like in the last couple of weeks. So I think that's a little bit of a complicating factor as well. I'm sure their preferred solution would be take whatever the one solution to the one problem is, fix that. Don't start, we're gonna fix this up now that now there's a hole over there, and then you got to patch that. And if there is a simple solution at this point, I think that would be the preferred one.
The rest of the running game, Ryan Day seems to be pleased. He said, I couldn't hear if the question was entirely about the offensive line or about the running game and the offensive line. But he said, I'm not concerned, not worried. If I was more worried, I'd be doing something about it. But in terms of the running game, I asked him about, you've got 4 running backs right now, and we've talked about this, that look like they're running with a ton of energy, running hard, look like they're as good as they've been all season. And he said, you talk about just the youth of these guys, and all of this is still new, but now it's becoming more comfortable to them. And as you get more comfortable, you're able to do more, you're able to be better at what you're doing, and you're able to see more. He mentioned something that we talked about with Bo Jackson in the Purdue rewatch, is 2 of those third downs where he got smashed at the line of scrimmage and bounced off of them and kept going, where maybe that's not something he would have done previously. And we've talked about Isaiah West pushing piles and just keep driving until the refs have to whistle the ball dead, unlike they did for C.J. Donaldson the week prior. And C.J. Donaldson running hard, and then James Peoples gets in there and shows the burst that we've all expected all season long. So right now they've got 4 guys that are operating pretty well. Yes, Tom, Purdue,
sure,
and that's a real thing, but it's better to see it than not see it. And I like what I'm seeing. Ryan Day said he likes what he's seeing. It's the steps that we would hope to see as the season progressed.
Well, it has felt a lot this year like the issues with the running game have been, to whatever degree you want to say there are issues with the running game, because it's this is not a they're 113th in the country in yards per rush or any of that kind of stuff. They are on the Ross Fulton episode of the morning show that will drop on Tuesday afternoon. Ross cites a stat from Bill Connolly where Ohio State is something like 19th in rushing efficiency in the nation, which it doesn't feel like it because you don't have the long, exciting runs, but they've sort of been boring and staying on schedule. And we have, of course, the caveat that we are contractually obligated to mention where the passing game, the RPOs, are considered a part of the running game, so that's also been very efficient. So, but to the degree there have been issues there, I think a lot of them have been line issues rather than running back issues. And I don't think the running backs have really been the issue. These are not running backs who are Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, but those are not running backs you have every year. Those are not running backs you have virtually any year. So that's not really the standard in terms of this is an acceptable running back room at Ohio State. The running back room has been young, outside of C.J. Donaldson, but has been pretty solid overall. I think you've had more issues with the line, which you can tell because if the backs are getting hit in the backfield, then that tells me it's not a running back issue. It's and now you're at least, as you said, when the backs are getting hit in the backfield or there is someone coming unblocked at them, Bo Jackson is now making that guy miss, or he's, bursting through that one, that first guy and turning a no gain into a 3 yards or a 3 yards into a 5 yards, which again, those are not exciting, but they're important.
Yeah, they keep the chains moving, keep them on schedule. That's the whole efficiency aspect of it. Defensively, Tywone Malone is expected to be back. Good timing for him because right now, as Ryan Day said, Edric Houston is playing his best football. He's kind of graduated from the player who flashes to being a more consistent player.
He's lost the trench coat.
And so he's all good to go. And somebody asked about Jason Moore, and Ryan Day's like, he's doing well. He's now flashing. You want to get him to where Edric Houston is now, and if they could, that would be great. I don't know if they're expecting that this year, but they're seeing more and more from him. He had a tackle for loss against Purdue, but Edric Houston continues. I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks in a row, like this might be Edric Houston's best game. So he continues to do well.
Well, and he went from someone who started the season as, he's won the starting job, he's clearly, and then he had sort of lost the job, and that was, I think, partly continuing to be intermittently impressive, and partly Tywone Malone really taking a significant step this year. I think both of those things sort of factored in together. That was the position group that we looked at before the season and went, boy, I don't know where the depth is there. I don't know if you lose your top guy, boy, is there a problem there. And it feels like Tywone Malone and Will Smith and maybe now Jason Moore starting to work himself into that conversation. Those guys are starting to earn bigger roles. That's really, really important. But then if you can have that, and you can also have Edric Houston also take that next step, then all of a sudden, now when we're talking about big concerns, all summer we were talking about the defensive tackle. And now we're talking about the offensive line, which, it's a different problem. So this is Ohio State's ready for different problems, right? So we haven't talked about the defensive tackles, and this kind of goes to the Ian Moore. If we're not talking about you, you're probably doing fine. We're not talking about the defensive tackles anymore, and that's probably a pretty good sign.
And real quick, back to the offensive line. These are all first world problems as well. And watching the Penn State Indiana game, there's some issues on the Indiana offensive line that we saw from Penn State there as well. But Edric Houston, we talked about him all off season. I think when we talked about Tywone Malone, it was almost like a courtesy, where are you really expecting him to do as well as he's doing to take the starting job and then also play well and not just occupy reps? Somebody has to take these 20 reps because Edric Houston can't. When he's out there and he's playing his 30, 40, snaps, probably not 40, maybe 30, he's doing well and he's holding up his end of the bargain, and it's been one of the better surprises for Ohio State defensively. Maybe, I don't know, what is the biggest surprise defensively for the Buckeyes? That's a separate show.
Yeah.
Good title perhaps, but I think he's one of them. I mean, I knew that Arvell Reese was going to be a top 2 NFL prospect. I mean, I was saying that from the mountaintops.
That was the first thing that I was about to suggest, but then I thought, well, Tony's been saying this for 18 months, so
Thank you. And when Ryan Day was asked about Arvell Reese, have you ever had anybody with this skill set? He's like, boy, I don't think so that can do all of that. He's like, Sonny's right there as well. Got to mention Sonny because here's the thing, Sonny is one of the athletic freaks of all freaks, and it's like, have you ever had anybody like Sonny? He's like, probably not. Well, Arvell.
Other than the other guy who does the same job, basically, yeah. I mean,
those two guys are, enjoy them while they're here because they won't be next year.
Yeah, I feel like Sonny Styles has gone from, he's the fourth-year senior and Block O and the captain and all that stuff, and I mean, beloved by the fan base and really respected on the team. And he also feels like he's almost a little underappreciated because it's like you start talking about the defense and it's like, well, Caleb Downs, he's one of the best players in college football. Well, Arvell Reese is one of the best players in college football. And well, Caden Curry, I mean, he's a Butkus Award or Lombardi Award semi-finalist. And, and it's like, oh yeah, and Sonny Styles too. And we're talking about all these defensive tackles and, Jermaine Matthews and Davis Ignosin and boy, Jalen McLean's been a really fun surprise. And then it's like, oh yeah, and Sonny Styles too, who is a returning starter and potentially another first-round type draft pick, just based on the athleticism, based on the production in college. He's just been really reliable, not super gaudy stats. But
where are Caleb Downs stats?
Right. Well, but Caleb Downs,
he's a known quantity.
Caleb Downs is the guy who you came into the year saying, well, if Jeremiah Smith isn't the best player in college football, it's Caleb Downs. And Sonny Styles was, probably like third or fourth on that list on who's the best player on the Ohio State team this year. And then now you're talking about Carnell Tate, and now you're talking about Julian Sayin, plus all the guys we were just talking about on defense. Plus I didn't say Caden McDonald's name yet, which he's in that conversation. And you could be a top 20 player in college football and be like the 6th or 7th best player on this Ohio State team, which is wild. But you go through the national awards lists, and it's like, well, you could have 2 Biletnikoff finalists, and you could have 2 Heisman finalists, and you could have, basically every defensive award, Thorpe and Lombardi and Butkus, and all of those. You could have Ohio State players in like all of those conversations, and Sonny Styles, I believe, is a Butkus, or not a Butkus, a Lombardi, I think, semi-finalist. But, he just kind of gets lost in all of the other guys. And you can be a sort of almost overlooked player and still be an extraordinary player on this year's Ohio State team.
100%. And he's one of those guys that Ohio State people knew about him. I don't think any, maybe out nationally didn't know as much about him because he's been so, one position one year, another position another year. Last year was his first year at linebacker, and it's just it's understood he's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about him. He's like the good kid that you don't have to worry about, and whatever. Caleb Downs came in with all of the accolades for good reason. It's just Caleb Downs is going to be a first-team All-American, and nobody's going to know what his stats are. They just know that. He's this guy.
You're just writing that name on your ballot without even thinking about it.
But when you're looking at Sonny Styles, you're like, not enough tackles.
Yeah.
Arvell Reese has all of the attention. I can put him down. I'm not putting both those guys down.
Right. Yeah. You can't be a homer and put everyone. You can't just list the whole Ohio State defense as first-team All-Americans, Tony.
Not the entire list, but there's an argument, and this is a different show, but there's an argument for, I don't know, I could say 7 guys.
Yeah, 7 guys at least as first or second team All-Americans on the defense. Yeah, and it's easy to say, well, that's, you only watch them, that you don't know. It's like, well, I can look at the stats, I can look at the results, and it's like, yeah, well, if you did have 7 All-Americans on a defense, this is a lot like what it would look like, so...
True. Anything else from the defense that Ryan Day mentioned? Peyton Pierce, who was taking that next step. He was asked about the young guys who maybe stepped forward, and that was one guy that he mentioned taking the next step. And we knew that they were confident about him coming in to be this year's Arvell Reese from last year, and it's just this progression. So he will be the guy in the middle next year, and they'll figure out what they're going to do around him. But I also think we saw a hint of that against Purdue with Riley Pettyjohn out there. But good marks from Ryan Day on Peyton Pierce, and you can watch that game over, and he's flying around making tackles and dropping dudes. Anything else from Day that we have not mentioned?
Have we talked about the fact that they have bumped the standard for what it means to be a champion?
For the offensive line, at least. I think
it was for everyone. I think it was for everyone. And the standard, you have to grade out an 80 or better to grade out as a champion for Ohio State all season. They have bumped that number to 83 now. You've got to grade out at 83%, which, I think that's a really good reflection of the fact that, first of all, the teams you're playing right now are not the teams you're going to be playing in December and January. So it's great to play UCLA and Rutgers now. That's fine. And Purdue, it's wonderful to play all those teams. You're not seeing those teams in January. You're not seeing those people in December. It's going to be, you're going to see Michigan, and then you're going to see Indiana, and then you're, assuming everything stays as it's going to be, and then you're going to see a bunch of teams from the SEC or Texas Tech or whatever. So you've got to be better than you are now, and what's good enough now is not going to be good enough in this January, and that's a constant theme every year where a team wins week 1 by 50 points, and the coach goes, well, that's great, but we know we've got to get way better. We can't be, you don't want to be the peaked in September team and all that kind of stuff. That, I think, is a good reflection of, all right, what used to be good enough is now not good enough. The standard is higher, and that's just a reflection of where you are in the season.
No Buckeye left behind. That's what we're going with. Rather than
Is
the
that,
Common Core
is, that
type
what,
of thing.
is that where you're going with?
So there you go. There's a recap from Ryan Day. If you're watching on YouTube, a thumbs up would be appreciated. 5-star rating and review only on the audio podcast platforms of choice.
If Tony grades out at anything less than 5 stars, he just gets hot dogs and hose water all weekend.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, but thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.